right?
Yeah, completely agree.
Especially
we did that on Gamescom as well. They deserve that as well now.
Especially when you've got a job for the next year. I mean, this is the 6th LCS team here in Europe. They've locked in their spot for the 2014
Third time's
season.
the charm. Getting themselves back in once again. Congratulations from the desk here to the Copenhagen Wolves for making it in. And really, it was huge. Big differences in the day. The games were the CS numbers put up by carries. It was in the bottom lane, obviously, the AD carries at 10 minutes was a big factor. We were looking at this all game long, and Mackler's stats were at 63 CS, average 10 minutes over the 4 games. And I know it was different on the other side because we just couldn't get our eyes off it.
Yeah, it was something that I think it was highlighted in the 80 carries, because over on the other side, Forgiven hit an average of 81 CS at the 10-minute mark. That's a pretty big number.
Right.
You're approaching 20 CS, you're approaching that's basically a kills
in 4 games
value
in a row.
worth of gold every single game. And the reason we're accentuating the 80 carries in this is because it's that role was sort of the most glaring
They have
change.
the most to deal with in this patch.
And everywhere else, people were roaming. They were, MYM in particular, not necessarily pushing the objectives quite as clearly, not taking advantage of where they were. So I feel like Copenhagen Wolves just went back to basics and did it a little bit in MYM.
Absolutely. And Arnea, nerves obviously come into play here, and we kind of saw them settling as we were also talking. It's not going to be a sunny entry for them in the LCS with the way these games are going. So the off time is definitely going to have to be their practice. They were one-sided games, but not definitive. Why was that?
Well, it's always really hard. Like the first game you play here, you play against an experienced team, and you always like struggle a bit at the start. It happened with us against Giants. The first 2 games we get destroyed. I mean, we didn't play our game. We were like so nervous. And it happens as well with Copenhagen Wolves. I think it's also the main problem was the composition of MeetYourMakers. It was really strong for first game, and for rest of the games, probably on the 3rd game it was a good comp, but the rest of the comps of MeetYourMakers wasn't that good as Copenhagen Wolves were.
I got a question for you in particular, because you mentioned the Giants game. I mean, you guys were down 0-2, you came back 3-2, the legendary 3,000 ELO Shockwave, and then the 3,000 ELO full stack Tears of Joy, because, I mean, do you still remember the feeling?
I can't really remember the feeling. Well, actually, we watched the replay like some weeks ago. Kobe and me, we were like just in the gaming house, just watching replays of games, and we particularly watched the last game. And still, like even now, when I watch that moment, it's like I almost cry again.
I can tell you right now, Arenea's eyes are tearing up.
I feel the emotional aura.
It's a makeup. It's a makeup. It's a makeup.
It's a makeup.
Okay. It's got in his eye. Mascara. Get it out. Moving on. Every game, we saw Kassadin, Olaf, and Katarina on that ban list. What else surprised you about picks and bans?
Ziggs being picked.
Every game.
There was so much emphasis on that. Katarina being banned out.
Yeah.
We heard Skara talking about it, saying Charu liked to play the teleport cat, which he has done previously. But a lot of emphasis on that Ziggs. And also Caitlyn for Forgiven. It was really one of his go-to champs.
That's absolutely right.
First of all, I'm going to talk about the mid picks. They always ban Katarina. I guess MeetYourMakers throwing a lot at Katarina. And you were talking about the teleport. MeetYourMakers started the LCS and started pretty much like winning every game by that teleport. I mean, we talk about the Mackler being like always lower like 18 or 20 CS at the minute of 10 minutes.
Right.
But it was always like this with MeetYourMakers. They weren't never really good on laning phase, but was Saru, just that teleport of the mid laner going to a lane to help that always make them win the games. That was the special strat, or the key factor, the win key factor of MeetYourMakers at the early of the season. Now he stopped playing that teleport, and he probably like found that with Katarina he have a really good laning phase, and he can like with the teleport hold the other lanes. Still, I think like he could try to play that teleport on other champions because he was like working correctly with him. And talking about again about the bans.
Absolutely.
That Mundo, that Sivana. These are the bans of these new paths. These are the bans of the new mastery, or the defensive mastery. It's really strong right now, the HP tanks in top lane, even in jungle, so that's why pretty much we see all these bans.
All right, so the mastery is creating compositions. Make sure you guys are looking at those once these players comes out. There's been quite a few on Reddit, but that does it for us here at the Analyst Desk. Before we send it over to the desk with Jat and D-Man, I'd like to first thank Arnea for joining us today through all the oh, that's fantastic. So dapper. But now we're going to send it over to D-Man and Jat to wrap up day 1 of the 2014 promotion tournament. Gentlemen, take it away once more.
Thank you very much, guys. And with today's